filmmaking.com. I'm happy with this interview because it's about the 50th anniversary of Deep Throat and also the new 4K restoration of the film. And I have Gerard Damiano Jr., Christal Damiano, his sister, and Robin, how you say your name? Leonardi?
You got it.
Oh, Robin Leonardi here to talk about the film and to talk about, well, what went on and why it's been restored and things like that. Well, first of all, let's start off with you, Gerard. Your father was the writer, director, producer for this film, Deep Throat. But let me tell you my experience with Deep Throat back in the day. I did see it. And back in the day, I saw it at the Playboy Theater in Chicago. I saw it twice. And I was truly, truly amazed by it. And plus, it's one of the first big porno films to come out like that. Now, when your father wrote this and directed it, things like that, and you were around, what did he say about this?
Well, we were very close with our father, and he was very upfront about the fact that he was a filmmaker. Now, you know, when Deep Throat.
Well, first, your father was a hairdresser, though, before he
was
became
a hairdresser,
filmmaker.
And he still was a hairdresser. Our, you know, the family beauty shop was still open when Deep Throat came out. You know, he didn't know that it was going to be such a great success. So, you know, my mother was working it while he was out editing, and the shop, as we called it, was open for another couple of years after that, you know, until my father felt secure enough in his film career that he could give that up and devote himself full time to making movies.
And Christal, what did you think of the film at the time?
Well, since we were young kids, I mean, we knew that it was a film with sex in it. We were often on the sets and met with the cast and crew, although I can say that we were never exposed to any of the pornography, any of the hardcore scenes taken off set. But we knew what our father did, and we were very proud of him because he was so passionate about what he did. That spilled over into us. We were very proud of who he was and who he became.
Yeah, and Gerard, he really loved Linda Lovelace. In fact, from what I read, he said he wrote this film just for her.
Oh, absolutely.
And they had a good relationship?
Yes, they did. Now, my father would later say, you know, with other films that he went on to write, is that he would find an actress, find someone, and write a film for them because it was hard to find somebody who could perform sexually, but also act in character. It was rare. Now, he found that in Georgina Spelvin, but that was a different film. With Linda, he met Linda and was inspired by her. You could say that she was his muse in that when they met and he saw not only her presence and her personality, which really struck him because she came off as being the girl next door. That's how he would describe her, that she was very innocent in a way, but at the same time, very open and free about her sexuality. And he was very struck by that combination of somebody who could have that kind of innocence about them, but also be very comfortable, you know, performing sex. And so when he saw for the first time this Deep Throat technique, okay, it didn't have a name back then, but he was actually in a position where the laws had just recently changed, and his films up to that time had been softcore. There was a lot of nudity, simulated sex, but you didn't really see the hardcore. So because the laws had changed, he had partners that were now infamous, but he didn't know at the time, but people that were willing to back him in Gerard Damiano Productions, and they wanted to make a feature-length film, and that's all my father ever wanted to do was make a real full-length feature film. But they thought, okay, we need to fund this, so why don't we take some of these old movies that you did that are now out of fashion because they're softcore, and we can cut some hardcore scenes and cut them into them and then re-release them as new titles, maybe change the narration or something, and then change the title, re-release them and make some money that we can then use to make another film. And so that's how our father met Linda, is that she showed up, for casting for one of these little inserts. It was just one little sex scene that would be cut into the film. And my father had this, scenario of a doctor and a nurse. There's this kind of archetypal nurse fantasy that some men have where they're helpless and the nurse comes and tends to them and so forth.
Yeah.
But anyway, so so he set up this scene with Harry Reams and Linda, and then when he saw her go down on him, he said everybody in the room stopped. Everything stopped because no one had seen that before, because Harry Reams was very well endowed. And so when she was able to take him whole, my father said, stop the camera. He said, I don't want to waste this on a throwaway, for this other film that we're trying to do. I can make a whole film about this. And so he went home that night, and famously driving back to Queens over the 59th Street Bridge, he had this, this idea, came home, typed it up, by the net, or actually our mother was a typist, he would dictate to her, he would pace around the kitchen and she would type furiously. And by Monday morning, he had the script for Deep Throat, and he brought that into his partners. They weren't so crazy about it because they met Linda, and to them, she didn't seem like a porn star. They didn't get this idea
right.
of the sweet, innocent girl next door also being a sexual being. They had this idea of, blonde bombshell type that was, more of a stereotype. And so my father really had to work to convince them not only to keep Linda in the film, but also to let him call it Deep Throat, because this was a term that he had come up with. He later was much more proud of inventing the term Deep Throat than he was of even making the movie, because he made it into the dictionary. So he would say, I made a new word,
Oh,
how many
great.
people, how many people do you know that could say that they invented, some a piece of the language. And then of course, later with, the Watergate and Mark Felt, the term Deep Throat now has two meanings. So, on Pornhub, if you Google deep, or if you use keyword Deep Throat, you're going to see something very different than if you just go to Google and put in Deep Throat.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that's kind of how it came about. And again, Linda was the inspiration. Our father wrote the film for her and even named her Linda Lovelace. And for a time, she became Linda Lovelace. In the film, it says Linda Lovelace as herself. It's not Linda Traynor or Linda Borman, or, it's Linda Lovelace. And so for that brief time of her career in adult film, that was her, and that was Deep Throat.
Yeah. And it is like that. And Robin, you're a filmmaker also. Are you porn or a straight filmmaker? What kind of films do you do? Because I don't know a lot about your career.
Okay, so I will tell you that I'm what they call an avant-entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur and I've worn many hats. I am working on a film right now. Really, she is the person that connects me directly to Gerard and Christal. My mother was Gloria Leonard, and she was a famous porn pioneer, First Amendment advocate. Yeah.
I've heard of her name. Yeah.
Yes,
Gloria
indeed.
Leonard.
So,
yeah.
Yes, exactly. So she published High Society magazine for about 14 years. She was the first female publisher of a men's magazine. She made her first adult film when she was 35 years old in 1975, when porno chic was really at just coming into the height of its notoriety. She is now referred to as, the grande dame of the golden age of erotica. And she went on to speak at college campuses across the United States. She debated women against pornography. She was she was president of the Free Speech Coalition. She invented phone sex, which was then taken to the Supreme Court to determine what in fact is considered obscene and who gets to decide that. Her archives are now at Harvard. And so consequently, you know, I grew up in the adult film industry, and I've seen all of the trials and tribulations and controversies and contributions that my mother made in an effort to maintain our First Amendment rights and to keep the censorship and the religious right at bay. And so I am here today to work with Gerard and Christal to help them roll out this world tour, because I think it's important. And I relate to the vision. And so I am here as the enzyme or the catalyst to help take this world tour on the road.
Oh, great. Oh, man, you have a lot of experience behind you. And yes, I remember your mom and everything like that. So you okay with pornography, as they call it, pornography? I really don't like that word. You know.
No, we don't either. I mean, I was 12
like
years.
That word.
Albert, I don't know where you are right now, but I was 12 years old living in New York City when my mother became a porn star in 19. You know, and she was a porn star before there was really a word for it. Like, you know, that term was kind of coined after. She was an adult film star.
Exactly.
So, you know, I always grew up around people in the industry, and they were always just the sweetest, kindest people that you would ever want to meet.
Yeah.
No ego, no artifice. You know, just real down to earth people trying to make a buck, just like everybody else.
Exactly.
You know, and so I think a lot of people have this misconception. You know, people are like, "Oh my God, your mother's a porn star!" Like, you know, like we were having orgies and hanging from the chandelier. No, my mother was a Jewish mother. You know, like, she would come home and it would, you know, we would have dinner, and it was, you know, did you do your homework? It was nothing like how people imagine life to be, living it with people, with your parents when they happen to be in this particular industry. So no, I have nothing wrong with adult films. I think it's the most beautiful thing ever. And I think the hypocrisy of America in particular around using sex to sell toothpaste and car tires, but not being able to show the act of two people expressing themselves in the art of making love is hypocrisy that 50 years later, we're still trying to combat.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I totally agree with you on all what you just said. It's unfortunate that people are still against it, and people want to make it dirty and things like that.
Exactly.
I'm still against those ideas. And then Christal, you know, you were a young lady at the time when your father was doing all this. Did you understand what was going on at the time when you were a young lady?
Yes, well, he explained to us, you know, it was a film with sex in it, and we were taught that the human body is something that's beautiful and sacred and should be honored. And so we never thought of sex as being dirty. It's actually something very natural. And as a species, we need to have that to survive. So it was nothing that we should be ashamed of at all. So I never thought my dad was making dirty movies. You know, it was, my dad was an artist who was bringing something to people that they needed to see and they needed to appreciate.
And did you carry that on over to your personal life too, with that idea of thinking and freedom like that in your personal life too?
Well, absolutely. I think I have, I express myself very well, and I have a very strong personal self-esteem, because I was brought up thinking that sex was beautiful and sex was something to be enjoyed. In today's society, I think the self-objectification has diluted women's empowerment and sexual empowerment, because I think, you know, everywhere you see women all over the internet twerking and, you know, showing off, and even young women today. And it saddens me really that, you know, there's no value to who you are if you're not out there showing yourself for everyone to see. So it's sad to me how sex has become, in my opinion, more diluted than more of an empowerment for women and for people.
Yeah, I understand. And Gerard, get back to your father and about the film. I read where well, he was backed by the mob, and he didn't get to see any of that $600 million. Is that true or not?
That is the truth. That is the truth. Now, when our father was first looking to make a feature-length film back in the early 70s, he was introduced through other people in the film industry to some Italian businessmen. Now, this was during the time that Joe Colombo had started the Italian American, I don't want to say, yes. Yeah. And so there was a lot of publicity about how, a lot of these Italians were being discriminated against. And of course, we're Italian. Robin's, half Italian. And so, our father found some Italian businessmen that were willing to bankroll him in making an adult film. And the way he put it to me, he said, back in 1971, if somebody was willing to give you $25,000 in cash to make a porn movie, you didn't ask too many questions. This was back at a time when, the mob controlled most of the theaters, in Times Square, and they started making their own product because it was cheaper, to just own your own thing rather than rent, pay rental fees or, work with other people. You own your product, you put it in your own theaters and like that. And they expected, maybe they double, triple their money like that. They had no idea the success of Deep Throat. It was unprecedented. So, before Deep Throat actually, went into production, when he was still working with these folks, Joe Colombo had his, Italian American Unity rally in Columbus Circle in New York, and my father, of course, went with all his partners because they all knew him, and again, they were aligned with him, and so forth. And he was at the rally when Joe Colombo got gunned down on the stage. And that's when it came out that no, he wasn't the business. He was a businessman. He was head of the Colombo crime family. And so, the whole thing, it's like the mask was torn away. And that's, my father said, that's when I found out who I was dealing with, because they all ran out of there back to their office, which was just down 9th Avenue. And he said, that's when all the guns came out. And that's when he found out who he was dealing with. And then it was too late. Now these are his partners, and he was contracted to make a movie for them, which he did. And so when the film started making so much money, as the story goes, they made him an offer he couldn't refuse. And he felt that he was lucky to get out of there with his life. He just wanted to make another movie. And he, now by this time, he saw who he was dealing with. He said, I don't want to end up in the trunk of a car. And so, sadly, we didn't see that. We didn't grow up rich, which was hard for us because we were, lower middle class, and which was fine because we didn't know any different. We had a great childhood. We didn't think, oh, we were missing this or missing that. But when Deep Throat became so popular, and a lot of the headlines were about, box office, records, and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. Now everybody around us thought we were rich. So it kind of added insult to injury that not only did we not get that money, but now people are asking us for money because they think that we're rich. And so our parents suffered, with that a little bit. And, our father just wanted to make better films. And he had, said to me, if I saw any of that money, I never would have had to go around looking for backers again. I could have financed film projects for the rest of my life. That's what he would have done. He wouldn't have taken the money to retire. He would have taken the money to make movies with.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Robin, let me ask you this question. Now, the theme of Deep Throat is that this Linda Lovelace, she was dissatisfied with sex. She wasn't getting the big thrill of having sex until she went to the doctor, which starred Harry Ween. But I feel that there still are millions and millions of women who are not satisfied with sex. I mean, do you know anything about that? Have you heard anything about that? I mean, from my own personal experience, I've been married 4 times. I had a few girlfriends, but I know many of those women were not satisfied with sex because, one, they were taught religious values and things like that, and don't do certain things, and don't let the man do certain things, and you don't do certain things to a man, but they were not fully satisfied. I feel that's a big problem with women all around the world.
Yes, that's true. And it's sad. And I think, historically, women's sexual desires have been subjugated so that men's desires can be fulfilled. And if you look at certain countries, and going off on a tangent here, where they have female circumcision, that's done to prohibit a woman from fully enjoying and experiencing sex.
Exactly.
And that's scary and that's sad, but there's a lack of education in sex. If sex ed was like really a thing where every boy knew where a girl's clitoris was by like that's a thing that most men, it's in the dark and nobody talks about it, and women don't know how to ask for what they need, and guys have no clue, and I think it's all about communication. If a woman has her enough self-esteem and feels self-aware enough to ask for what she wants,
Yeah.
and can describe that, and a lot of women are ashamed to do that. They don't feel comfortable doing that, and it's society, and I think that mostly in America, predominantly, I would say that is true. I don't know that the same can be said for the European culture, where they're just, I think, generally more comfortable about expressing their sexuality. And so I think that this film really was groundbreaking in a lot of ways, because it clearly shows the woman's need for sexual fulfillment, and that she's not afraid to ask for it.
Yeah, and Christal, did you see that as part of the popularity of the film Deep Throat, especially women who went to see that film, because it was based on, well, this dissatisfied young woman, and now she found some way to find satisfaction. Do you think that was one of the attractions for women to see the film?
Absolutely, yes. I think that this film opened the dialogue for women to talk about what they need and realize that they have a voice in the matter too. And it's all about communication, and you can't get what you don't ask for. So it really did open that up for women. And then it was okay for then women to go and see adult films, because all of a sudden they didn't have to hide or be next to a guy with a trench coat on. It was more glorified for a woman to enjoy sex and be curious about sex and ask for what pleasures them. So absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Gerard, my final question is, what's the rollout for this? How are you going to roll this out? Let's put it like that. Okay, for the 50th anniversary 4K restoration, which I saw, very beautiful. Oh, I still love this film. Oh my God. I was watching it, and my girlfriend said, "What are you watching?" I said, "I'm watching Deep Throat." She said, "That old film?" I said, "It's new now."
So
doing research.
Where are you located?
I'm in Florida. I'm in Florida.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay, not too far from Robin. Where Robin is at right now?
Oh,
I'm in Sarasota.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got friends there.
Where are you, Albert? Say it again.
Boca Raton.
Boca.
Oh, okay.
Boca. Just
looking to breathe in Boca.
So to answer your question, we're starting in New York City because we're all New Yorkers, but our father was very much a New Yorker, and this is where Deep Throat was premiered back in 1972 at the World Theater on 49th Street, is where the world first saw Deep Throat. So we thought that it would be appropriate to start here and mark that date by showing the restored version of the film. And so we're doing this at the Slipper Room, which is down on Orchard Street. It's a world-class burlesque theater. And we love the Slipper Room, so we're very happy to partner with them. We're going to be doing a red carpet event where we have a mixer and then show the film with a talk back after that gives the audience a chance to ask questions. We'll have a panel of some very intelligent people that are able to contextualize the film and help people to understand what was the big deal back in 1972, and we can talk a little bit about, is it relevant still today, and will it be relevant 50 years from now? And so we're going to do that at the Slipper Room. There's 3 shows, starting with that premiere. Then we're going to do a show with burlesque show involved, and then a midnight show at the end of the night. But before that, we're going to do a little bit of a sneak preview, and that's at the Roxy Cinema Tribeca, where on June 10th, we're going to show a 16mm version of the film. And that's more for the film purists. There are some people out there that they don't want to see the digital version, no matter how clean or nice it is. They'd rather see the old, clackety, clackety, clackety vector going around, and something about the romance of the xenon bulb shining through the acetate film. So we're going to do that and just show a little piece of our restoration to give people an idea of what they'll be seeing if they decide to come join us on the 12th at the Slipper Room.
And our entire lineup can be found at DamianoFilms.com, our world tour. We're actively booking new dates in new cities every day. Maybe what we're planning on being in Miami, God willing. So maybe we'll see you there.
I hope so.
Talk about the vote throat, but I think we have 2 minutes left.
Okay, well, I did want to add that we're also partnering with the Museum of Sex, and they're showing original posters from the film and some of the memorabilia of our fathers from our collection. We're taking the film to Bologna for Il Cinema Ritrovato Festival, which is a world festival of film restoration. So there will be people that are focused on preserving film and film history from all around the world there. We're excited about that. We're going to be showing the film in Montreal at Cinema L'Amour. In Seattle, we have a couple of shows at Northwest Film Forum. Also, we're going to Porn Film Festival Berlin. So all of this can be found at DamianoFilms.com. There's new dates being added all the time. We've been getting a lot of positive response, so we're just trying to work our schedule. And we want to take this to as many places as we can and offer more of an event cinema where we can have the talkbacks and open up the dialogue after the show, rather than just have it streaming somewhere online. And finally, I know we're running out of time, but we also have a campaign to put Deep Throat in the National Film Registry. Now, this is something that's part of the Library of Congress. They select 25 films a year to be preserved and as part of American history. And anyone who is a U.S. citizen is invited to go and cast their ballot for up to 50 films, 25 of which are selected every year. So we encourage everyone to go to DamianoFilms.com and vote throat.
And I think you can only do that up until August 11th. So we want to encourage everybody to get out there and vote throat.
Vote throat.
All right. Thank you very much, Gerard. Thank you very much, Christal. And thank you very much, Robin. This was very informative for me. I enjoyed this, but it's one of the best films I saw at the time, and I got so excited about it. And I'm still excited about it.
Wonderful.
And thank you for joining me, Al McGee, here at yeticket.com. Have a great success. Hopefully, you bring it down here in Florida and get a chance to meet you guys in person. All right.
That sounds terrific, Al. We look forward to that. Thank you.
All right.
Take
care.
This is your entertainment ticket. Latest and greatest.